What was so special about May 17? Nothing special. It wasn't my wife's birthday or our anniversary or even the first day we met. It was an ordinary day, an ordinary Tuesday, and that's why I chose it. My name is Keith, and my marriage to Lisa after 12 years has started to become a little stale, or should I say predictable. It's not that I didn't love her. She and the children were the most important things in my life. However, that little sparkle that usually appeared in her eyes when I mentioned making love seemed to be gone lately. So, being the hopeless romantic that I am, I decided to give her an evening she would never forget. Monday morning at work, I pulled out the big guns: Katie, Cheryl, and Karen, 3 of the hottest single women at work. "Okay, lady, if you could write the script for the most romantic night of your life, what would it be?" I asked them. Around midnight, they all started zipping off to Paris, making love in a gondola in Venice, or watching the sunset from a hot tub over the Swiss Alps. "Easy, girls," I told them. "I'm more thinking about a romantic night at home or in one of the hotels in the city center, something that won't break my bank account." By midday, they were back with a list of ideas that were now in my price range. I thanked them, treated them to lunch, and began making plans. They seemed almost as excited as I was, jumping up and down, telling me that I better not fail, because now they had a bet on how my evening would end. The first thing I did was take Wednesday afternoon off so I could get everything done before she returned. I usually got home around 6, but Lisa was always home by 3:30 to meet the kids as they got off the school bus. On Tuesday night, I told Lisa that my parents wanted to take the kids to dinner and a show on Wednesday, so they probably won't get home until 8 o'clock in the evening. The kids were even more excited when I told them that I had a surprise for their mom and that they would actually spend the night with their grandparents. My parents always spoiled them terribly. I left work around 11:30 on Wednesday with my trusty list in hand. Let's see, free time, children with mothers. Then came a trip to the store. Let's see, a sweet card, tons of good chocolate, and her favorite wine. The girls gave me a complete list of everything that needed to be done, down to the lighting and music to set the mood. The flower girl looked at me strangely when I asked her for 2 pounds of pink petals. That is, until I told her what I was going to do with them. "You must love your wife very much if you went to all this trouble for her," she said, as I left the red rose petals in my hand. I finally booked a table for 8 at Lisa's favorite steakhouse. I figured we'd need some food by 8, and if we decided to cancel dinner, I'd make sure we had steaks in the fridge to grill on the patio. Finally, everything began to come together. I returned home, hid the car behind the house, and brought everything into the kitchen. Let's see, 2:30. That gives me an hour to get everything ready, I told myself. Over the next hour, I froze the wine in the freezer, made a huge heart on the bed with the rose petals, and using chocolate chips, wrote the words, "I love you," in the center. I filled the garden tub with water and sprinkled the remaining rose petals on top of the bubbling water. On my side of the bed, I placed the wine in an ice bucket, and on her nightstand, I placed a card next to the reading light. I dimmed the overhead light, opened a bottle of wine, and poured 2 glasses. I placed our portable CD player on the dresser, and decided that I would turn it on after she entered the bedroom. The last thing I did was take a shower, shave, and strip naked. At exactly 3:25, I heard her car pull up. I was more than ready. I closed the bedroom door, stood at the foot of the bed, naked, holding 2 glasses of wine, and waited for her to come upstairs. I heard muffled laughter and what sounded like a group of horses coming up the stairs as they burst through the bedroom door. Yes, I said they are. Lisa and her boss, Rick. Do you know how long 4.75 seconds are? It's like one huge sigh when your eyes meet hers, or 3 heartbreaks. But it's enough time to kill the romantic mood and destroy a marriage. It took Lisa's brain 1.5 seconds to register that something had changed when she ran into our bedroom. Her shirt was unbuttoned, and her BRA had already been removed. Her brain then sent an impulse to her voice box, which took approximately 2.0 seconds for her to utter the words, "Oh my God," and finally 1.25 seconds for her to realize she was fucked, so to speak. If this wasn't the world record for breaking up a marriage, it should have been at least second. Rick, seeing what was happening, turned around and ran to the front door. It disappeared in less than 45 seconds. I, on the contrary, watched as Lisa began to cry and fell to her knees. I pour the contents of both glasses onto the bed, go to the closet, and start getting dressed, all the while listening to Lisa tell me how sorry she is and how much she loves me. It took me about 5 minutes to get dressed and tell her it was in her best interest for her to leave before I returned. I went downstairs, got into the car, and drove to the nearest place where I could get a drink. So I'm sitting at Tony's, finishing my 4th beer, wondering what my next step will be. At 6:30, I returned to my now quiet and empty house. The front door was unlocked, and Lisa's car was nowhere to be found. After quickly peeing downstairs, I head to our bedroom. Everything was almost the same as when I left. The garden bath was working. The wine, the card, the chocolate were there, untouched. Lisa's closet was open, as were several dresser drawers. I sat on the bed and tried to put my thoughts in order when my cell phone rang. I turned it off without answering because I wasn't in the mood to talk to anyone right now. I know I have to replace the mattress in the guest room, I told myself when I woke up the next morning. I showered, shaved, and went to work, but on the way to my office, I looked more like a zombie. "Well, how did it go?" all 3 girls shouted, running into my office. "Judging by the way you look, it must have been one hell of a night," Karen giggled, nudging the other 2. "Oh, that's how it was," I replied, telling them the short version of last night. "Bitch," Katie said too loudly. "What are you going to do?" Cheryl asked. "To survive and take care of my children," I muttered. "So if you don't mind, please keep quiet about it. I don't want to be the laughing stock of the whole office," I told them. They left telling me how sorry they were and that if I needed someone to talk to, they were always there. I thanked them and closed the office door. Bank accounts, credit cards, life insurance policies, 401k, all were closed or changed by 9:30 a.m. I then called my parents and told them that Lisa and I were having some problems and asked if they could keep the kids until the weekend. They were sad to hear about this and were more than happy to watch the children. Checking my cell phone, I found 20 messages from Lisa. I threw them all away. The lawyer gave me the name of a good lawyer at a reasonable price if possible, and I made an appointment for Friday morning. You'll never truly know how screwed you are until you spend 2 hours with a divorce lawyer and have him lay out your options, or lack thereof. It was your word against hers. Lisa and Rick hadn't done anything yet when you caught them, and you couldn't kick her out of the house because it was her house too. You know what really pissed me off was that she would most likely get custody of the kids, the house, and at least 40% of what I made after taxes. They fucked me and didn't even kiss me. He suggested marriage counseling, or at least a 90-day cooling-off period before I did anything. Look, Keith, no matter what you do, you'll be paying child support for the next 8 years at least, plus house payments. The only thing you can do is bide your time and try to minimize your losses. Look, if it were me, I'd move into the spare bedroom and make life at home as easy as possible for your kids, he suggested. I left early and moved all my junk into the spare bedroom. I bought a new mattress and threw the old one to the curb. I never answered Lisa's calls, but I knew that sooner or later she would most likely show up at the house, so I tried to be ready for the meeting. I picked up the kids on Friday on my way home from work and took them to a pizza place. They told me they had a great time, but were glad to go home. Lisa finally showed up around 8:30 that evening. The children surrounded her on all sides, but she never took her eyes off me. By 10:00, they went to their rooms and I headed to the guest room. Lisa asked if we could talk later, but I told her I wasn't in the mood. "Maybe tomorrow," I said, closing and locking the door. I heard a muffled scream as she looked around what used to be our bedroom. I heard sheets being pulled off the bed and other noises as I imagined her trying to tidy up the room. On Saturday morning, I noticed a card, rose petals and chocolates in the trash bin, along with an empty bottle of wine. The children had breakfast and went about their usual Saturday activities, friends and football. I wasn't really hungry, so I just made coffee. Lisa came down just as I was finishing my first cup. I poured myself another, grabbed the newspaper, and went out onto the deck. "You know that sooner or later you will have to talk to me," she said through reddened eyes. "But why, Lisa? What can you tell me to explain what I saw on Wednesday? How long have you been cheating on me with Rick?" "It was only the second time, believe me, dear," Lisa sobbed. "Why do I have a hard time believing you? And by the way, you've lost the privilege of calling me honey or anything else that sounds endearing," I spat. "We will coexist for the sake of the children until I understand what is best for me and for them. Looks like you've already made your choice." Then Lisa ran into the house, and I finished my coffee and tore the newspaper in a rage. Work sucked for the next 2 weeks, but at least it wasn't as bad as my home life. Someone had spilled the beans at work, and now all I was getting were these pitying looks from all the women in my office every time I walked past them. My boss wanted to know if I needed personal time off, but I told him I was managing it and that I needed a job to keep me sane. The children knew from day one that something was wrong and asked if they had done anything wrong. "Children, your mother and I are going through a difficult period, but everything is fine, believe me," I told them, but it was not so. Lisa tried to get me to talk and even tried to seduce me once, but I no longer felt anything for her. I felt worse than whale shit when Cheryl walked into my office Thursday just before 5 crow. "Get your coat, we're leaving," she announced. I looked up to say something, but she stopped me. "Maybe you don't understand. This is not a request. Grab your damn coat. We're leaving here," she announced. When Cheryl and I arrived at Anthony's, 2 more of the formidable trio, Katie and Karen, were sitting at a table in the corner. After ordering a drink, Cheryl got to work on me. "You need to come to your senses, Keith," she began. "You've been walking around like dead for the last 2 weeks. And even though everyone has your back, you're going to be in deep shit if you don't tie your head and ass together." "I have my reasons, so why don't you just fuck off?" I almost shouted back at her. "Fuck off, asshole. You're not talking to Lisa," Karen replied. "What the hell do you want, Keith? Or are you going to wallow in self-pity for the rest of your life?" "I want everything to be like it was before this shit happened," I said, looking at my glass. "I thought you said your marriage was stale and you wanted to revive it," Katie asked. "Do you really want to go back to your boring life? Do you love her? I love and hate her at the same time. I wish I could strangle her and Rick for what they did to me," I screamed. "I just don't know what the hell to do or even where to start." "Let's eat, and then we'll figure it out," Cheryl said, calling the waiter. "The first thing we need to do is level the playing field. Lisa is still in your house and returns to work every day. Rick, on the other hand, goes home to his loving wife and children, even though he ruined your marriage," Cheryl spat. "It's time for you to get your life back." By the end of the evening, I felt better, and they were right. I had to do something. I couldn't let this go on. It tore me apart. Lisa wanted to know where I was when I got home. "So, what do you care about?" I shouted as she went into her bedroom, crying. The next day, I met with my lawyer, Randy. "I thought you were going to wait for a divorce," he asked. "Yes, I want to sue the company that Rick and Lisa work for, and then hit Rick with an alienation of love lawsuit," I told him. "Look, Keith, you don't have hard evidence. I told you so." "I know, but they work for a public company, and with all the crap in the news lately about corporate mismanagement, I don't think they'd want bad press. Also, even though Lisa wasn't at work, don't most managers work until 5? Don't most corporate bylaws have a morality clause when a married boss has sex with a married employee he supervises, especially during working hours? Randy said it would take a couple of days for everything to be finalized and the papers filed, but he would let me know when things got underway. For the next 3 days, I was the old Keith. I joked with people at work, had fun with the kids, and even started talking to Lisa again, which made her life a little easier. On Thursday, Randy called and said that their company had been served, but I asked him to wait with Rick's papers until we reached an agreement with their company. By the following Tuesday, Randy and I were sitting in a conference room across from the CEO and his manager. "We have reviewed the documents, and it appears that you forgot to include any documents about the alleged incident," the manager began. He then said something about frivolous lawsuits, and was quite surprised when I stood up and headed out. "I guess we'll see you in court then," I said, getting up from my chair. "You know, we will take testimony from all office employees," I said calmly. "How many of them do you think knew what was going on? All I have to do is find one or two," I told them. "How many managers do you think will defend Rick when their asses are on the line?" "Good luck, gentlemen," I said, walking out with Randy. I was sitting at my desk on Wednesday when Randy called. "They want to straighten out or, as they put it, make this mess go away," he told me. Well, I asked for $250,000, attorney fees, and for them both to be transferred to other state offices. "That should cover everything," I told him. "Tell them the offer is valid until noon Thursday, and then we'll move on." That afternoon, Randy called me again. "They agreed to the fees and transfers, but they are offering $150,000, he told me. "Randy, stop haggling. Tell them the price is now $300,000, and if they come back with another counteroffer, the price will rise to $400,000. Maybe this will end everything." On Thursday at 3:30, Randy called and said that my offer was accepted and that by 5 hours he would give me the forms to sign. True to his word, the package was delivered to my office at 4:30. "This man said that they were waiting for him," the secretary told me. After reviewing the papers and the check attached to them, I signed the papers and handed them over. "If someone is looking for me, then I'm gone for the whole day," I told her, leaving the office. In the car on the way home, I quickly called Randy. "Serve Rick tonight and do it at his house." I was over the moon. By tomorrow, I would have a pound of flesh, and I could move on with my life. "Okay, that's it. Grab your coat because we're going out to dinner tonight," I said, walking through the door. Lisa looked at me and did not move when he continued. "Come on, Lisa. You too." A wide smile appeared on her face as she ran for her coat. Over dinner, we talked and laughed as we had done for the past 12 years. Life was good again, almost good. When we got home, everyone thanked me for a great evening and went to their rooms. Lisa came closer, kissed me on the cheek, and thanked me for the evening. "He meant a lot to me tonight," she said. I told her that we would have a nice long talk tomorrow night, so she needed to get some sleep. "You son of a bitch!" Lisa shouted, entering the door. "You knew last night what would happen today, didn't you?" "Not quite, Lisa, but pretty close," I answered. "Where is the job that you were offered?" I asked. "Tennant, New Jersey, wherever the hell that is. It seemed like my services were no longer needed here and that it was either New Jersey or I was out of work," she explained. "I told them there was no way they would transfer me there, and then they gave me severance pay and gave me 20 minutes to clean the table," she sobbed. "I gave them 8 years, and in 20 minutes I was out the door," she said, sitting on a kitchen chair and sobbing. "Where is your friend Rick being transferred?" I asked. "Flint, Michigan," she said, staring at the floor. "The armpit of the Northeast. This couldn't have happened to a nicer guy," I said, grinning from ear to ear. "Well, Lisa, this is how the next phase will go," I said, pulling up my chair. "If you want to be part of this family, here are the conditions. First of all, you need to be examined for sexually transmitted diseases and bring me a certificate of health. Then you will take a polygraph test, and to help you, I will even ask all the questions in advance," I said, holding the paper across the table. As you can see, they start out very easy, but become increasingly difficult down the list. By the time she got to the last group, she started crying. Am I the biological father of my 2 children? Why did she cheat? When we had sex in the last couple of months, who were you thinking about, Rick or me? How often have you lied to me in the last couple of months? How many affairs have you had? Do you still love me? You have a meeting tomorrow at 9, I said. And if you get through this without any major surprises, we have an appointment with a marriage counselor for Saturday morning at 10 Wakeu. Lisa just sat and cried, going through questions. I can answer them now if you want, she said. I think I'll wait until tomorrow, I told her. I just don't trust you anymore, and I want to start all over again, without any lies, if you don't mind. I didn't like all her answers, but in my mind, she passed. Do I trust her? Hell no. Do I plan to stay with her? Well, the jury is still out, but we're working on it. The worst part is that we haven't made love for the last 5 months. And that's what I really miss. We have sex once or twice a week to relieve tension, so to speak, but it's not the same thing. Rick took a transfer to Flint, Michigan. Last year, I sent him a Christmas card from Florida that said, "Glad you're not here." Oh, by the way, his wife and children are here. I think the sunny South won over the cheating husband. Go figure it out. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one.